Hi everybody. As promised, here's my short video about using Claude Code for things that are not necessarily writing computer code, but in fact using it as an AI agent for other tasks, for instance research and other business relevant tasks. Starting this with, as you can see in my screen, this is the welcome screen of Claude. That's the one of the competitors of Chat GPT. In my view, a very good AI in many respects, particularly for writing computer code. And it has several things here that I don't want to go in detail. But one thing that I want to show you, in case you have a Claude account, because you need a Claude account in order to do what I will show you today. In my case, I even have a Max account, which really gives you a little bit more of mileage to use it. When you go to settings, you will see, when you click here, you go to settings, you will see different things there, including one thing called Claude Code. Okay, so you have the installation instructions here, and in fact, excuse me, you have here a little bit of explanation about it. Important is that for those of you that are not using Linux or Apple, meaning if you're using Windows, there is a guide for installing Claude Code on Windows 10. This is some content that has been generated by the community, and I will put this as part of the in the comments here of my post, so that you have access to this, because I think for those of you that actually use Windows but are interested in exploring what I'm showing you today, this will help you making sure that you have access to Claude Code. There are two more little pieces of this whole thing. I mean, we are still in those days where using agents may be a little bit more complicated than maybe in 5 years from now, but that's where we are today. So after installing Claude Code in your computer, you will need to use also to install, if you don't have it, Visual Studio Code. Okay, so this is a code editor. This is very widely used in coding communities, and as you will see in a minute when I show this, there is a reason why using Visual Studio or VS Code is so useful in combination with Claude Code. You'll see this in a minute. As you'll be able, if you go here to download, you can see you can download for Windows, Linux and Mac. So again, if you are using Windows, which I assume many of you will be, that's how you have to install. It's nothing complicated. It's essentially running, installing, downloading, installing this. Okay. And the third thing is, that's the easiest part, is that I want to make you aware of one thing called Markdown. Markdown is a markup language, so like HTML, but slightly different, and that's very useful for text. And you most likely are aware of that, but if you're not aware, when you're using Chat GPT, when you're using Claude and all that, a lot of the text, or most of the text behind what's shown in your window has been rendered before using this so-called Markdown. And it's very, very easy. I have here a cheat sheet. I will also put this in the comments. As you see, you'll see this type of structure that is really very easy for headings, for setting a bold text, italicized, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So why I'm showing this is because a lot of what I'm going to show you next, you see some of those symbols there, and I wanted to make sure that at least you have heard about Markdown. Let me now show you what I did in my laptop, this certain file structure and how VS Code looks in my laptop. Okay, and it's going to look the same in your laptop or your desktop as you have it. So here is a folder. It contains a tender from the European Union. There's one tender that I found in the European Union that's quite interesting. Talk to you about that in a minute. And essentially, I downloaded, on the one hand, a PDF guide to this particular tender. It's a Pathfinder challenge. Yeah. And I also downloaded the specific text, which if I click here, as you see, it opens a document that has a markdown structure. If you remember, this is a headline 1, a headline 2, and so on. Okay. Now you will notice that there is this window here. This is already VS Code. In my system, I already set it up so that when I double click a markdown document, it automatically opens for me in a VS Code window. It's going to be probably different for you. I think the message really is important that when you have a folder structure, make sure that you can open your VS Code and have access to that by opening the folder from within VS Code. Okay, it's a little bit technical, and I'm sorry, that's the nature of it. But as you can see, it's very useful because it's essentially a text editor. I mean, it's also a code editor, but it's essentially a text editor. And you can see it's a very long document here, which is the actual tender. Also, you can even see the PDF here if you want. Okay. But importantly is when I was preparing this, I created a document called tender preparation. Okay, and this is nothing but a prompt to tell Claude what to do. Okay, and as you can see here, I start with instructions. Note this structure. This is a title, this is a subtitle. The subtitle says instructions, and so in this folder you find the document, this one, that contains a detailed call to a tender. As you can see, I even had a little error here, so we just correct it. Yeah, and to the European Commission and so on and so forth. Okay, so now I say that's your job. Your job is to basically review this document, understand if this is an interesting tender for my company, and so on and so forth. And I gave here at the bottom background about my company, what we do, and some of the CVs of the founders of the company with professional experience. Yeah, as you can see, so the other founder, and so on and so forth. So really a lot of context. I gave Claude a lot of context to match whatever is in that tender and whatever is here as background. Then comes the magic of combining VS Code and Claude. I will come here, there is a little place called terminal, and I'm going to click here and I'm starting a new terminal. Okay, never mind what it all means, just as you see this window here, what you do is just like you just type Claude once you have installed it, obviously. And what is happening now is that I have now Claude Code running directly here in connection to this particular folder. Why this is so powerful in my opinion is because I can compartimentalize projects. So I have dozens of projects which are right now using Claude Code as a coding agent, but I also have several projects which are using Claude Code as a non-coding agent, as a research agent, which is what I'm using here, for instance. Those little agents, they don't know anything about each other. So whatever memory this particular agent here has is not influenced by what's happening in other projects. So this is Claude as a trained AI, but then focus on one specific set of documents that I give to it and as part and definition of my project. Okay. When you have this, as you will notice, there is a little file here, claude.md. This is something that is generated by Claude itself, and it's like its memory. And this is something that we are not doing. This is something that comes automatically. The thing that we are doing really is about the tender preparation. That's the, in this case, particularly the instructions that I gave to Claude. So what I can do here, for instance, is to say, hello, can you please briefly summarize for me the content of this folder? So we start right there, and what it's doing for me now is really just going through what's here and analyzing the content of this folder. You know? Now, this is really nothing that you would say spectacular, but in a few minutes I think you'll be convinced that this can be really your go-to agent on an everyday basis when you're doing research work, for instance. There we go. Contains an EU preparation project and the tender documents, DB Charm prototype, which was in fact related to a prototype that I for fun was showing to Claude on this, that would connect well to this particular tender, and some expertise, blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, very quickly, it took a few minutes, or not even a minute, to actually get already an overview of what is contained in this folder here. Okay. Alright, so now we go for a second demonstration, which I think then gives you a little bit of a live view. Again, we have a VS Code open already in another window. And one thing that I have here, this is first of all an instruction, a very short set of instructions about what this folder has. I'm right now working with a group in Berlin called Beam, very exciting project on intralogistics. And as part of this project and as evaluation of what we're doing, you're going to be looking into potential competition in a certain type of business. We are thinking about creating a platform for buying and selling used equipment in intralogistics. I gave it some context, really little context about that. I have a file here with significantly more context about what this project is about, so the system can go there and read if they want. And I think the most important thing, and that's for the demonstration now, is that I want to do a little market research. I want to make sure that I look into potential competing platforms or competitors, and I want the system to give me already some insights. So this is coming from another source. I have already a bunch of companies here that would be considered as potential competitors to this platform. I will only ask the system to look into the top 3 of that because of time constraints. And in order to do that, I'm going to do the same. I will open a terminal. And remember, when I start here, as you can see, this is now a completely new project, completely new setup. And so what I have to do at first, because as you may recall, there was this memory, Claude memory. There's nothing there right now. It's really a new thing. So I'm going to start right over there. And it's going to initialize Claude, which means it's now going to check what is inside this folder. And it will make some notes for itself, and in some seconds or minutes, depending on how big this is, you'll see this file being created there. Let's wait for that. But as you can see, what's going on is that it's reading each of the files here. It reads also using search methodology, so it's not reading necessarily the whole thing, but it's really reading what is important. And right now it is looking for something. I'm going to say, and that's something that's very useful and nice to know, Claude usually also asks, before making some action, asks if it's allowed to do that. I will say 1, yes. And if you say, I want to give yes for the whole time, I don't need to be approving all the time, you just go for this option 2, or if you want to change your plans, you can go for option 3. I'm going for option 1, so that we keep a little bit of control on what the system's doing. And it's now creating Claude, so its own memory, taking notes for itself. Okay, good. As you can see, now it created a file. It's still not available here, but what you can see, it has some text that is created, it's new. I just need to approve it and off it goes. And now you have here Claude MT, which is the guidance for Claude Code. Okay, so it read the system, not the system, the files in the folder, and created a set of instructions for itself so that it goes back and reads that when it needs. So, what is what I want? I want Claude Code or Claude to go into the market landscape file, extract the three first companies that are there, research on them, do some research, and prepare for me one extra file where the results of this research is then saved. So I'm going to give these instructions here. Generally, if you have a very long set of instructions, you would prepare an extra file for that and say, go to that file and read my instructions. In this case, it's relatively simple, so I'm going to just write here as a prompt. Simple, clear, and sometimes a little bit repetitive to make sure that the system is not misunderstanding what I want. But I will also say, if you have questions, please ask before proceeding. So, there we go. And it's now doing the research. Those are different marketplaces, so the project is really about exploring, building marketplaces that would buy and sell or help buy and sell used machinery in intralogistics. And as we can see, it already started a web or wants to start a web research. I'll say yes, but this time I'm going to say true and don't ask again when it comes to research here. I just want it to go out and not ask all the time about the research. So it's doing now right now what an agent would do. It's just using one of its tools and going in the world and finding out about this particular company or this particular platform that is selling also used agricultural equipment. Yeah. Back to our video, as you can see, Claude already did 3 web searches. It took about a bit more than a minute and is right now compiling the research documents, and I'm very much curious and looking forward to see what the results are and how the system will save this. There we go. So it generated a file, and then again an MD file. It's quite a bit of information there. I'm just going to say 1, yes, save it, and is now writing the research dossier. You can see it's already here, and it's now saying completed. So it looked into those 3 companies. Let's open that dossier. You can now make it a little bit smaller here. And as you can see, by each company, established 77, yes, that's something that confirms my own research. Yeah, and very quickly put together a very nice little dossier about those 3 companies. Obviously, I have way more companies in that file, so as you can imagine, this is exactly how I'm running this. I'm just picking up and letting the system do this. While I'm doing other stuff, it's doing this in the background for me. I would like to thank you for your attention, and hopefully this was useful, and looking forward to your comments. Thank you. Bye bye.